Alright, got some cooling rail material in. Started cutting my cooling rails to length. Got a box of Fernco couplers. I've already had the center post positioned where it's going to be. Right there, it's dead center. That way both of my cooling rails on either side, when I pull them off to do clean outs, they're identical size. They don't have to go in any certain order. I just pull them off, clean them, put them back on. The center post, I got my 3-inch 90-degree sweep in. I have it located onto the barrel and located onto the center post. Traditional Wayne Keith, this is a straight post and there's a clean out port in the top so you can flush out this post easily. I opted this time to go for a sweep inlet. I think maybe later down the road I might put a flange coupler right here so this can be easily separated for removing the heat exchanger body, or if I need to do like an extreme clean out in the center post. But I don't think that will be that big of an issue. Once I pull the cooling rails off, I can just slide a hose right through. I can blow all the way through it. There is a little bit of a well down here at the bottom, 2 inches of pipe that could accumulate some soot. I'm not super concerned about that because gas should be able to still come down and disperse and go through all three. More than likely the bottom rail will clog up once in a while. I'll just pull it off, shoot the garden hose through there and clean it out. The bed is obviously back on the truck again because I wanted to make sure everything was going to line up. Did find out something a little bit interesting. So like I said before, this is all used scrap metal material except for of course the new exhaust pipe that I ended up buying for the cooling rails. None of this material is perfectly straight, and I know that, but I built it as square as I could with that in mind. Right here on this corner, she's a little tight to the cab. But if you notice, Bondo. I don't think this cab is sitting on the chassis square because the bed is sitting to the frame square. If that ends up being an issue, it's not that big of a deal. I will, when I go to put it onto the white truck, I'll just scoot the mounts back 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, because the front holes I have to drill anyway, so if I need to scoot them back, I can just re-drill them. And the back holes, using factory holes in the frame, if I have to take a carbon burr bit and auger it out a little bit to scoot the whole bed back, make sure I got good clearance on the cab, make sure I'll still have good airflow coming across the front of the cooling rail, which is not going to be the best because it is behind the cab, but with any pickup you get that swirling air right across the back. So I should still get some good cooling on the front rails. The corner posts, now that the bed is located, you can see they do stick out in the airstream quite well. So that will get a lot of air catching on it. It'll be cooling a lot. And then these rails are completely outside in the wind. They'll catch a lot. So yeah, that's about how far I've gotten right now. Hopefully going to pick up a air compressor tank that I will convert into the rear condensate tank. What else? Like I said, I got my box of Fernco couplers. I buy them on Amazon, they're cheap. And then I got a couple other parts in. These spa gate valves, same ones I used on the Toyota. It's just a 2-inch PVC on off, super simple. And I've got some springs. We'll get that rigged up so that those are auto closing. And I got some handles that will get mounted onto the floor, which will be the control cables that come back for the air inlet and for the gas shutdown. I have to get all that rigged up. I've already had everything on the truck, test fitted multiple times, make sure everything's going to line up. Like I said, I might put a flange in that pipe later, but for the time being I don't have the material, so I think it's going to ride the way it is. And it's okay because I've got a flat bolt down flange and a flat slide over foot, so that whole assembly just slides right into place. So if I do need to do any work on it, I can just disconnect the front cooling rails, pull the whole assembly off. Nowhere near ready for these parts yet, but I have the parts, so I'm going to assemble them. So 2-inch spa gate valve, pretty plain Jane. These handles are threaded, 1/4 20. They're soft plastic, we don't need it. Whatever piece of plate you got laying around, this is a 1/8 inch by 1 inch, 3 1/4 inches long. Center punch mark and 2 on the outside edge. This doesn't have to be critical. Center hole is going to be 1/4 inch, outside is going to be 3/32. Pretty simple. I'm going to take this over to the wire wheel and we'll clean the burrs off the back. Now, I've got some C239 screen door springs. Leave them the length they are. We're going to take the nut off one of the bolts here. Of course, the nut's going to spin now that I have the camera on. Anyways, take the nut off, slide the bolt back and take one of our springs, run it right through the eye of the spring. Put the bolt back in. Oops, put that one on backwards. The spring has kind of a step over. You want that facing towards the valve, not towards the head of the bolt. Cinch it down nice and tight. Get the nut back on there. Basically face the spring right out the side. You could do this a lot easier if you had a longer bolt. And when I say a longer bolt, I would put the longer bolt in here, your factory nylock, then your spring, and a nylock on the outside to capture the spring. But I don't have any, so I'm going to take the other bolt on the other corner and flip it over to face, drop the nut in the process, face the opposite direction on the opposite side of the valve. And I put the spring in wrong again. There we go. Same thing, we'll run the nut back down. That. We'll go grab a couple nuts real quick. 1/4 20 nut. Run it all the way down. Close the valve. Put our little cap on here. And loop the springs on. Come on, in there. Now we've got a spring-loaded valve. Open up and auto close. So that would be, well, for my Canadian oil patch workers, what they call a PASO, positive air shutdown. One of these will be on the incoming air to the gasifier, and wherever I've set the other one, somewhere around here, that will be the dump valve on the rear tank to purge the early gases that might have some tar contaminants while the system's warming up. One intake, one exhaust basically. This one being the intake, this will remain open all the time while the gasifier is running. The other valve on the rear tank will be open only for warm-up procedures. From this point, you can put whatever you want across the top to connect your activation cable to, which will be the levers on the floor that I showed you earlier. But I can't install those until I have the gasifier on the truck that's going on. It'd be pretty pointless to mount them to the floor of the cab that I'm not using and run the cables the right length for the cab I'm not using. So, wanted to get these out of the way. I will give these just a little tack weld across the top, and that's about it for those. Now it's got some mud flaps on it. A little bit of paint on a couple of the cooling rails. paint on the heat exchanger and center post. And you can see right there, I got the condensate tank mount drain welded up. I got some finished welding to do on it. I'll do that when the bed comes off for the last time. I'm just running out of stuff to do. I need that rear condensate tank. It's holding me up on a lot of stuff because I gotta bring the tubes, the gas lines off of the back rail over to the tank. I have to do that before I can mount angle iron across the back that the decking will mount down to. I need to get the tank done so I can figure out where my plumbing will line up and design the heat exchanger and where it will sit, if I'm gonna sink it through the bed a little bit, or I don't know, I don't really know yet. Yeah, I'm just kind of doing little piddly stuff, whatever I can find that still needs done, until I can find that rear condensate tank. I'm running out of stuff to do. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.